On this episode of the podcast, I have with me Moitree Rahman. She is a global digital measurement leader. She's actually the associate director of digital measurement at Colgate-Palmolive. We're going to be talking about the cross-functional nature of analytics. And by that, I mean the skill sets that you need on an analytics team have become really diverse, spanning different areas from business to technical. And there's a lot of challenge now to make sure you're staffing the right type of person, growing your team, finding the right balance. Moitree, thanks for being on the podcast.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me as a guest.
Absolutely. So let's start off at the top with two things. One, I'd like to know what your responsibilities are as a digital measurement leader. And then pretty sure everyone knows what Colgate-Palmolive does, but if you want to just let everyone know at a high level what they do, we'll go from there.
Yeah, sure. So Colgate-Palmolive, I think this is the most loved and known brand across the whole world. So I don't have to give any more introduction. It's a very lovable brand across the whole globe in 200 markets. Although I think one thing that I do want to clarify is that Colgate-Palmolive is not just an oral care brand. It has pet care, it has home care, and it has personal care brands as well. So that's a pretty diverse category. So, I know our parent brand name directly correlates with one of our products, and people may think that it's only, the mouthwash, toothpaste, a toothbrush, but it goes beyond that, which was one of the reasons for me to be a part of this company. Is actually it gives a pretty diverse set of product portfolio to work with. And now a little bit about me and what I do at Colgate. So I basically started at Colgate back in 2020. I was one of the remote hires, and I work on the global digital organization. It is a fairly new team that has been built in Colgate to accelerate our digital transformation ambition. So it's a very good mix of Colgate teams who have been in the company for many years, who know the brand in and out, as well as SMEs from outside. So, which is one of me. And, and my role specifically is related to the measurement aspect of our digital transformation. So in terms of all the digital channel and the areas where we are accelerating our investments, right, in digital, moving away from a lot of traditional channels, but boosting our performance where people are basically. And we have known that our consumers are not only watching TV, but they're everywhere. They're on their mobile. That's a digital device. They're on their social platforms. They are watching TikToks and everywhere. So we want to be where they are. Then with that ambition in mind, we have started heavily investing in these emerging technologies to reach our consumers at the right time, at the right moment. And you cannot manage what you cannot measure. We all kind of know that proverbial statement. So with that, measurement has been a very critical pillar of our digital transformation. And I am part of that team, helping our team understand and our organization as a whole, what are the KPI structure we need to have and the metrics we need to look at to measure the success of our digital transformation across our priority pillars, for example, CRM, search, social, digital commerce, all of that. So I, help the organization build the vision as well as frameworks and, principles and guidelines for digital measurement, as well as I am a resident, advisor for our ad tech and martech investment. So I also help the internal steering committee to understand what is the next big trend within the tech space, within the media landscape. And who do we bring on board in terms of data and technology, media partners, all of that stuff. So it's a pretty diverse area that I oversee, but I feel like it's a very challenging space to transform a 200 years old company into and ready for it to compete in a very fiercely competitive industry.
Awesome. I mean, in terms of what you guys are doing, it sounds really dynamic. It sounds like an integral part of the strategy. Obviously, we see a lot of competitors, a lot of companies who are legacy and they haven't been able to keep up and they're going through struggles. I guess we're going to be talking about, the cross-functional nature of analytics. You said something interesting that you're also involved in where do you invest in emerging technologies. And to me, I kind of think about that. I go, okay, well, investing in emerging technology is good. And then it's actually finding people to use them and put them in play. And that kind of ties into the fact that you need such a diverse, amount of skills on an analytics team. Maybe talk about your team, like what type of people are on that team, the type of roles that you manage.
Yeah, sure. That's a great question. And, it's a team sport, to be honest. You cannot have one expert and have them solve the whole problem because there are different components of that. Like you have the business person who needs to develop the business use case and who needs to define the question they're trying to solve for. So it's easy to jump on the bandwagon and buy the new shiny toy without understanding what is this going to do for my business, right? So that's the lens we need to keep wearing, and the business person is going to help us. So that's what I think we have this, I think, called the steering committee, where we have the combination of the business people as well as the tech experts, the people who are the enablers, as we call them. So our GIT team, the global IT team, is an integral part of that whole project because they're the ones who are, building the infrastructure, making sure the integration happens, right? But before they even do that, they also need to understand, why is business asking me this, right? So that's the cross-functional nature of these kind of roles, which is not dependent on only one person, but a group of experts. But what I also realized, and this is from my previous background, because I come from a analytics background from a ad tech company. So previously I worked at LiveRamp, and before that I worked at AT&T's DirecTV business. And before that, I worked at digital publishers. A lot on the supply side, data vendor side of the business. And what I have seen in my 12 plus years of experience in that industry is that you can have super technical people, you can have business savvy people, but oftentimes, if you don't build a bridge between the two, communication breaks. And that's the last thing you want because you need that translator in the middle. And that's where I think the success of a lot of these projects, even on the brand side, now depends on having that kind of, first of all, expertise, both on business and tech side, who can speak in a common language, right? And it can be have a person, either a project manager in between who understand both sides and can really mitigate any kind of differences. And I think that's critical for the success. And also, most importantly, translating this business problem that the business person is going to raise, translating that into technical problems, breaking that out to specific actions is super critical. And that person in the middle, having that, being that multilingual really helps. And we do have those kind of resources as well, or we are trying to build that. I have been a very strong advocate of that, as part of the steering committees and making sure those people, the right skill set are there, because not everyone's going to be with the tech people in the same room all the time as we're making decisions, but having that person an integral part of that day-to-day project management is really the key, especially for a company like ours, like CPG companies, where we haven't necessarily had that kind of person who manages both sides, right? It's either the IT person does it or either the business person develop the strategy, but execution goes to somebody who is completely not business savvy. So they're sometimes doing some guesswork to understand, okay, this is why the business asked for this specific data set. So let me just build a pipeline to bring it into my data warehouse. I'm just oversimplifying it, but the point is that communication can break, and having that kind of person with three very distinct skills that coming together in building that.
And on your team, are you responsible for mainly the analytics, or do you start pulling in the data scientists, the data engineers as well to kind of help you produce the analytics that the team needs in the end?
It is. So the way we're structured, we have our global digital organization. We also have global analytics organization, and then we have global IT. So all these three parties, the first were fairly new. Global IT, they have been here, but their support has been different. Right now, they're more on, okay, well, what is a digital business use case? Well, let me understand that, and how can I help them kind of set up the infrastructure? The analytics teams are also where the data scientists sit. they are also providing us with more of like, and it's a fairly new organization, so they are still hiring and building it. But the idea is that they will be helping us in scaling these up, right? So right now, I am also supporting in analytics because that's the background I have, more from a strategic point of view as well as execution. So when I move into my execution part of the role, that's where I really work with the data engineers, the visualization experts who currently sit within our IT organization. And I'm a very hands-on person because, like I have been a very analytics specialist before, so I kind of understand the nuances. So it's very helpful for me to just like be a part of that like weekly sync and just make sure like things are syncing up correctly. They have the right requisition in place. We have the right resources in place. And I also make sure like in the calls that we are having with the vendors, like, I am also part of that. Just to ensure, like, we understand what the vendors are offering. So GIT, our IT team also understand, okay, this is what the business was looking for. And this vendor has those specialties or has those resources available in order for us to bring them on board and integrate them for any specific business use case.
And I guess, when you're talking about, obviously you're looking at different technologies. I mean, you're in a very dynamic part of the analytics world, a new platform emerges, you have to understand how can you, report on it, understand it.
Exactly.
So when you're looking at these emerging technologies and you're obviously talking to business, the back of your mind, you must be thinking, I have to deliver on whatever it is that we're going to acquire or use. When you're starting to look at that, and obviously, you add more and more complexity to the different types of skill sets you need. Does that even become an issue, or you're like, hey, I need the right tool, I go find the people to manage it? Or it's like, hey, I want to limit the number of tools because in the end, I still have to manage a team that's delivering a far more disparate, set of those tools.
Yeah, I mean, so we are the global team, right? And one of our objectives is to bring in enterprise-wide solutions for everybody in our local markets to start using it, right? So the vetting of these solutions starts from us. So I do have to not only wear a business hat, but a local business hat, right? To understand that if it's going to really resonate with certain markets, not just the North American market, but we have our, APAC, LATAM, we're everywhere. So does that benefit them? How are they going to use it? Do they have the right resource in the market in place, right? If they do not have an analytics resource and bring in an analytics product into the mix, you basically don't have the people resource in place in order to leverage or maximize these new tools. So that is that having the right resources in place is definitely a very important thing to ensure. Because for any of the implementation of any of the solutions and tools really depends on people, process, and the tool itself, right? So you need to have the process in place, you need to have the tools in place, and you need the right people as well to ensure that that is working and it's making sense. In terms of like bringing in tools, just like I said at the beginning, is that we don't want to just keep acquiring new stuff, new tools, but what we absolutely need at this moment, right? We're accelerating on our digital commerce journey, which is so important for us. We want to be able to better track and measure how we're doing in our digital commerce investments. And there are multiple technology platforms available there, but we want to make sure it's globally scalable. And we're getting the right service from our partner, right? Because oftentimes it's not just, we don't have the bandwidth, and realistically, we won't be able to increase our headcounts like drastically overnight. There are a lot of budget restrictions and all that stuff. Scalability becomes a problem. So that's where we look at either our agency partners or our platform partners, these technology providers, for help with managed services, right? So it's not like the teams on the ground don't have to then just download and extract from their tool, and they have to do additional analysis. We just want to make sure the tool provides everything in one stop, that the team can start leveraging it right away. So from a global perspective, we want to empower our local partners, bringing in the right set of tools to answer the questions, the burning questions, right? We cannot answer all questions, but again, what is our business priority? Do I have that solution in place right now? Maybe for digital commerce, mattress and analysis. No, we don't. Let's look outside. Who is out there? Who is globally scalable? So these are the factors we keep in mind. Plus, do we really need the people in the market level or global level or division level? So those are the other considerations that we keep in mind as we are thinking about like what kind of skill set we need and if we really need it inside of Colgate, or it's fine if we have it on the partner side.
Absolutely. I guess to kind of touch on that, the challenge that obviously exists within this analytics space is having that right, whether it's a partner, whether it's internal. I think it's a growing challenge for everyone, is that delicate balance of business and technical. Someone that can drive requirements, understand what the analytics should mean, but we're asking people to now have deeper Python skills, deeper SQL skills, not just using a tool. Obviously, you can find multiple people to do that as well, but finding that one person that potentially can straddle both is becoming very challenging. And obviously, there's a cost of handoff when you split that role up. I guess from your kind of viewpoint, when you're looking at, you said bringing in the right person, how do you evaluate that divide of business and technical capabilities and getting the right person in?
That's a great question. Like, how are we defining what skills that we're looking for? So that starts again, what do we want this person for? In terms of analytics, like there are different levels of analytics, right? If you are thinking about just the descriptive analytics, you need just an analyst, to be honest. You do not need someone like a data scientist to build them, because that's not how you leverage their skill set, right? So it's much more advanced. With this global analytics team now formed within Colgate, that's something that we're also considering, is that what level of expertise you really need for what purpose. If it's just like, tell me what happened, right? Look at the past trend, tell me what happened, what's going on, more competitive intelligence, you probably don't need a data scientist. So that defines what kind of role you need. In terms of advanced analytics, we have started to kind of, because we are on this journey of acquiring a lot of first-party data, like just like any other companies across the CPG world, in anticipation of the third-party cookies going away. So that's going to be a huge impact on our targeting capabilities. And we are ramping up our first-party data collection. And as you know, like whenever it's not just collecting data, it's how you act upon the data. What do you do with it in a very privacy-safe manner? So that's been our most priority at Colgate. So having ownership of our own data. So third-party data is going away, great. Having ownership of our own first-party data. Now, what do you do with it, with their first-party data? Extracting meaningful insights out of it. That requires, again, a different skill set. It requires a more advanced person, is like, because you want to understand the existing behavior of your own audiences and also predict what they're going to do next. How can I find them? How do I maximize my relationship with my customers, right? What are the right models to use? Those are very advanced use cases. Build different kind of optimization scenarios, right? So if is reaching them at this social channel is more effective, or should I actually reach them somewhere else? At which time of the day is going to yield the maximum impact, right? So these are the business use cases I'm thinking of. And if that's the problem we're solving for, that's going to require completely different skills, that much more advanced person who knows how to work with very unstructured data, not clean data. Their data can be very messy, right? So there's unstructured data, put some structure around it, find patterns, and predict future trends, building models and testing the models, interpreting the results. And then also not interpreting the results, but how does that connect back to my business use case? That's very, very important, right? So those are all advanced use cases. If I were to hire for that person, that's not going to be just an analyst. It's going to be beyond someone with more like technical chops as well as business chops. That's what I don't want to take that one out of that equation, because if I also think about career pathing for that person, right, who is like bringing a lot of advanced skill set, I also want to think about how I'm going to retain them and create a career path for them. And in order for them to constantly move up and become more impactful, wearing that business hat is going to be very important for them to keep moving up in the organization at a leadership position, so that they know how to translate those like data science model results into like business results. So I know like that was a long-winded answer of like what you were asking for, but it really starts from like, what is the problem we're trying to solve for here? And the person who I'm hiring, what he's exactly going to do.
Absolutely. I guess to kind of maybe tie in, you mentioned about obviously, needing to use external, resources. You can hire internally, budget constraints obviously drive that. So when you are potentially looking to grow your team, add new capabilities, you can go external. It's a little bit, it could be more expensive, but then again, hey, that's how the budget falls. When do you typically look at the point of, hey, we really do need to bring this person in house? It's a newer analytics skill set versus let's keep it with an external partner, whatever the reason might be. Is there any views of when you make that decision of when you would bring that skill set internally versus keeping it external?
Yeah, so I would say that the more data rich we will become, the more we'll need to have a better grasp on our data, our own data, and establish a better control of our data, or ensure it's quality data, have the right privacy parameters in place. And that's when I think I'll distinguish that between like what sort of data we have, because that kind of drives the decision sometimes as well as the application of it. If that's my reason, what I just described is that I definitely want someone internally. And there is a speed factor to it as well. So I need to quickly analyze a few quick things. And I think I can have it internally because also I have sales data somewhere sitting and I want to build the correlations with that. And those are sensitive data. And, we have restrictions not sending that out. And, it's probably better off to build those correlations based on like internal expertise, and we can do that. So we have better control, we have speed to scale, all of that. But there can be certain times where we cannot quickly set up like a 20 analyst team, right? Maybe we need it for 1 to 2 years, right? We just need to augment on top of what we have, and we really need those executional skill set. And we look externally, and that's where like our agency partner has like offer a lot of help. They partner very closely with us in terms of providing those analytics expertise, but we work very closely together to ensure that, they are actually doing what we want from the business side of things. So that's how we distinguish between whether we want it internally or externally. But I say like more building internal powerhouse of analytics is becoming the trend in our industry.
Interesting. I guess you mentioned, you alluded to some privacy and kind of, becoming a bigger trend. You mentioned obviously third-party data, going away, lots of, tracking and privacy issues. When you start, forward thinking, down the road in terms of, your team and, dealing with the emerging trends and business issues, and you're like, hey, privacy for one, is that something you feel, you can kind of manage through other teams, through external capabilities, or something emerging like that you potentially see as a bigger long-term thing? Is it like, hey, I got to bring that in-house sooner?
Well, it's happening now. I mean, it's no longer like a future thinking planning mode. We are actively ensuring that we are following privacy compliance because we're a global company. We are everywhere, right? And our European markets, which is much stricter in terms of ensuring privacy standards, exactly, GDPR is there. So, I mean, it's we cannot wait and react. We have to proactively act against it. So, in terms of, like data collection and all of that is becoming more and more. I mean, we're getting a lot of concerns, not concerns, but I mean, like, how are we tracking it? How are we collecting it? So we want to ensure that there is a right value exchange available with our consumers. That's why we want to establish a direct relationship, the relationship based on trust with our consumers so that they voluntarily want to know more about our product. They come to our website to learn about our offerings, whether it's our oral care site or our pet care site or home care site. We want to ensure that they feel encouraged and motivated and see that they're getting the right value for our brands and willingly share the information. It's absolutely everywhere blasted on our website every time they come in. And they can opt out. They can opt out from any communications or opt in to receive more information about our product. So that's absolutely an option that's available to just ensure that we're empowering our consumers to share that information and we're not kind of sneaking up on them. But yeah, that's our top priority and we're actively doing it now. So it's definitely our high priority.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, obviously the world of analytics has gotten a lot more complicated over the years, and everything you describe, it's not going to get any easier. cognizant of your time. I was going to ask you one of my final questions here, and I'd like to see what you think. Is there a topic that you'd like to see a subsequent guest be able to address? And it could be anything that you want another technology leader to respond to.
Sure. I'd love to, CPG industries are typically the ones who probably don't have a lot of data on our own, or they have started to gather a lot of data. I'd be very interested to know how other companies within our industry, within the same spectrum of data maturity, are really handling analytics in this growing world of data privacy, cookies going away. How is this impacting their business, their marketing, and what role is analytics playing in shaping that up?
Awesome. I think you might have given me a idea for a roundtable discussion, so I might include that in a subsequent roundtable. I do.
Awesome.
Definitely will ask you to join.
My pleasure. I would love to.
Awesome. If somebody wants to reach out to touch on anything that you've talked about, what's a good way to get a hold of you? I know a lot of people like LinkedIn, but do you have any other preferred avenues?
Yeah, LinkedIn is definitely the preferred one. I'm active there. So anyone who would like to connect or have a chat, just drop me a note and I'll be happy to get back.
Awesome. I appreciate your time. Thank you for being on. I think it's a super interesting topic, and I really think it'll hopefully resonate with listeners.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Amir.
Thank you. That's it for this episode. We'll be back again, different guests, different topic. Until then, I always ask for two things. One, if the episode was useful, share it with someone you know. That's how we grow. And I appreciate everyone who does share the podcast. And if there's a topic you want me to cover, feel free to let me know, and I will do my best to find a guest to do that. Until next time, goodbye.